This is about equipping our partners with the resources, the technologies and the skills to move up the value chain, to create jobs for their citizens and to protect the environment.
If you see me in the streets, better holler at me. Seeking for a beat, throw them dollars at me. I don't like defeat, take that away from me. You tryna be like me, you couldn't handle my story. But we gon' let you know, we gon' let you know. We gon' let you know, we gon' let you know.
President, Secretary General, Excellencies, my generation was raised with the idea that our children and grandchildren would be better off.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing, man? Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to yet another episode of Mr. J's Reaction. If this is your first time tuning in, man, they call me Jay. I'm a Motherlandian living in the diaspora, and for the past couple of days I've been dropping vlogs about the situation that is affecting Motherland, and especially the relationship between the West and the global South. And a couple of days ago, I did drop my reaction on the EU Commission President, man, Ursula von der Leyen, with the speech he gave to African leaders, begging them to partner with the West so that they can continue manipulating and robbing the global South. Now, fast forward, man, she goes on to the United Nations General Assembly and she gives a speech which I personally do think that it's a whole lot of baloney, and we are going to talk about that, and I'm going to react on it. We're going to go through it meticulously so that we can actually expose the hypocrisy of these politicians, man. But before we get started, please do not forget to give us that thumbs up and hit that like button, because the more you hit the like button, the more the algorithm works with us and tries to understand what we are trying to do. So let's not talk too much. Let me get started. Let me back it up and we get started.
President, Secretary General, Excellencies, my generation was raised with the idea that our children and grandchildren would be better off.
Everybody's generation.
But a cascade of crises has now set back progress towards our sustainable development goals. First the pandemic, then Russia's war of aggression with its devastating impact for global food and energy security.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. It seems as if for the past couple of months, man, every Western politician, whenever they are on a platform they want to talk, it's either they attack Russia or they attack China. If they are not attacking China, they are attacking the friends of China, BRICS. That is because, of course, we see that BRICS is actually making the West panic. And you want to know why? And that is because the collective of BRICS, the GDP of BRICS, is growing at a 3-to-1 ratio to that of the West. Now, she said that I can definitely tell you why. That is already set the stage so that the world is going to look at everything she's going to say and blame Russia and Russia's friends. But we all know that's a lie. Secondly, she talked about she grew up in a generation where your children are supposed to be better than you. Now, is it just your generation, or I thought that was pretty much every generation's plan? Like, I want my son to be better than me, to live in a world greater and better than mine. But we all know that if you were talking about growing up in your generation, we all know that you grew up in the generation of entitlement. Yes, European entitlement and racism, but that's not why we are here. Let's keep going.
Aggression with its devastating impact for global food and energy security.
Yeah, blame Russia.
All of this with the knock-on effects of a boiling planet. Against this backdrop, developing countries do need more resources.
Pause. Against this backdrop, so let me just set the stage, and let me just give you something to, when I'm speaking, you can, man, we all know this is already propaganda. And she talk about a boiling earth, global warming, climate change. Russia is not the reason why the world is warming up. You have to hold some of your allies, man. Some of your allies are emitting, it's crazy. And of course, some of them will talk about China emitting more, Russia and its friends. It's crazy. Let's go back.
developing countries do need more resources to pull people out of poverty and to transition towards a clean and equal economy.
To pull people out of, developing countries need more resources to pull people out of poverty and transition to a clean and equal economy. Now, we all know that when they talk about developing countries, their primary focus is Africa. Quick question. Since when did the Europeans start being worried about Africa? Since when did these people start bothering about economies in Africa and developing countries being equal and clean with theirs? And that is because, as we all know, once again, I will tell you, BRICS is putting these people on, they're making them uncomfortable. The GDP of BRICS 2020 was equal to that of America and her allies. I'm talking about EU, Britain, Italy, Germany, Belgium. Yes, it was equal. Fast forward 3 years, 2023, the GDP of BRICS as a bloc is growing, is at a 3-to-1 ratio as compared to that of the US and her allies and the West. So they are uncomfortable. Now they want to look after these people because they know that BRICS is going after these developing countries. Oh man, it's too late.
To pull people out of poverty and to transition towards a clean and equal economy.
Since when?
And this is why I welcome the Secretary General's SDG stimulus plan. In 2022, Europe elevated its development aid to 93 billion euros, an increase of 30% over the previous year.
Let me just say this. Developing countries do not actually need aid. Aid is the one thing that is keeping the West in that position of slave and master. Developing countries need an equal playing ground. These folks are not getting it. Developing countries have the resources, and again, developing countries, to me, Africa, we do have every resource on earth. So why do you think that your aid is helping? Your aid is actually killing Africa. Should we talk about the structural adjustment program which left a couple of African countries in? And let me tell you, maybe people don't know. It's only after the Chinese came into the picture that some of these countries started coming out of that mess that structural adjustment program put on them. And you are here talking about elevating your aid. What are you, Santa Claus? We don't need your aid, woman.
30% over the previous year. And today, we account for over 40% of the global assistance. We know our obligations.
Yeah, you know your obligations. I will give that to you. Your obligation is that of keeping these countries in debt. Yes, you elevated your aid giving 30%. Big deal. But aid is killing developing countries. Why can't somebody just stand up and tell her that she's a liar and she's lying? So you give aid to developing countries and then you place conditions on them. Okay, interest rate crazy, 12-10%. But see, people now know where to turn to. Now the world is going to be a multipolar system of doing things. You feel me?
But public funding alone is not enough. We must explore all avenues to attract new funding towards developing countries. And first and foremost, there is the reform of the MDBs, without any question. But let me focus on two ways in which we are answering the Secretary General's call.
She talked about reform. She talks about reforming the MDB, that's the multinational development banks, through which they give out these aids at crazy interest rates, thereby keeping these developing countries that they are so all of a sudden worried about in debt, so that they can keep manipulating. We see through this, man. We are woke. We are now, man, see, motherlandians like me around the globe can actually see through this BS that you're talking about. You feel me? So don't lie to us.
First, we have to unlock private capital. With our Global Gateway Investment Plan, Europe is investing 300 billion euros in developing economies in the next 5 years, in renewable energy, in stronger healthcare systems, in quality education, green transport, and of course, digital solutions.
All of a sudden, you guys want to do these things. 300 billion in the next 5 years. Oh, that's a pledge. I bet you not all of this is going to be done, because we saw that the president of South Africa gave that speech in front of the president of France, Macron, one of your allies. Now, you want to invest this money with what conditions? You want to keep these people enslaved, but we all know that China does way better at a lesser interest rate, and that is why every opportunity any Western politician gets, they trying to make these people look bad. This we see through. Oh, all of a sudden you worry about developing countries' education. All of a sudden you worry about infrastructure, health. All of a sudden you worry about the digitalized. Come on, man, give me a break.
This is about equipping our partners with the resources, the technologies, and the skills to move up the value chain, to create jobs for their citizens, and to protect the environment.
Look at that. Sounds familiar to you? The same thing she said to African leaders after the BRICS summit. The same stuff. The same thing. Value up, create jobs. No, let's have an equal playing ground. Let every equal. We are going to grow better than you. Heck, China did. For the past 30 years, the Chinese economy has been growing rapidly, faster than all of you combined. And IMF is projecting that the next couple of years, man, 9 countries could have the growth rate of these countries are going to be tremendously, very, very increasable. And that is China, and Russia is in it. The same Russia you guys tried to sanction, but it didn't work.
We're doing so by using a portion of our public budget to de-risk private investment. And we're taking this further. We're also supporting developing and emerging economies to create their own green bond markets in order to attract even more fresh capital towards the Sustainable Development Goals.
This is the thing. If you want to help developing countries, especially those in Africa, let the playing ground be equal. You feel me? Yes. Let everything be equal. Let them be able to decide where to get their public funding and that infrastructural development funds from. Let that playing ground be equal. We all know that you will say this, and your countries, your allies, they will come around creating bills to punish any person that is partnering with China or Russia. This is a lie. You are lying.
My second point is carbon pricing. Carbon pricing is one of the most efficient and effective climate policies. Carbon pricing fosters innovation by the private sector. It makes polluters pay a fair price on carbon.
Oh, really?
Their carbon emissions.
Really? Do they actually pay though? You keep saying this. They keep talking about climate change. Do they actually pay though? That's my question. See, let's not talk too much. Let's talk about the recent flood in Libya. That was your fault. Africans don't emit a whole lot, but you guys do. But you come out here and talk this big talk, and nobody backs it up actually with physical impact, action. So this is why I think she's still lying.
While cutting emissions, and the revenues can support the clean transition in developing countries. Let me give you a few figures. Last year alone,
figures.
Carbon pricing system raised 38 billion euros.
She looks very, very happy when she's trying to drop some figures on us. Yeah, let me give you some figures. After lying your way through and you start giving figures. Figures which are prepared by some of your scholars. Who knows if it's manipulated?
And we are reinvesting 100% of it in climate action. But if you look at the global greenhouse gas emissions, Only 20% are covered by carbon pricing. Now just imagine the global impact in terms of new revenues while cutting greenhouse gas emissions if more countries adopted this strategy and would introduce a carbon pricing and dedicate a fair share of their revenues to developing countries and emerging markets.
Developing countries do not emit a whole lot of carbon. Our carbon footprint is not that big. We do not. How do you explain this whole concept of carbon pricing helping developing countries? This is just another way of view of keeping these countries in debt and do what I say kind of system. Developing countries do not need that. You can now have people starving, people don't have access to health care, quality education, but then your focus is this. Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we must double down our efforts and have the courage of creative solutions. Let's work together to restore the promise that tomorrow will be better than today for all people on this planet. Thank you very much.
Let's work together. Tomorrow is going to be better when you start making the play field equal. Everybody should be equal. Global economy system. No one gang of people benefiting over the others. Now when you see them trying to equalize that stuff, you start blaming. Another way you can make the future better for everybody on planet Earth is stop trying to tell the world what to do. Now ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this vlog by throwing the question back to you people. Do you think she's being honest? Everything she said, is she actually being honest? That's my time, man. Don't forget to give us a thumbs and leave a comment. Let's talk about this, man. Let's keep exposing these people, man. These Western politicians and the allies, man. We are smart and we are woke. It's time for Africa and the developing world to rise up. The global south needs to rise up. I'm out of here. Peace.
Creation, reaction, God. Big up TRB family. Mr. J, I see you. I know some artists don't do this. God bless you and your family.